Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bolton. My name is Josh Kelly, and I'm the town administrator here. Glad that you're joining me on my show today. This has been a very irregular set of months. Ever since March, I've only been able to come and speak with you directly, a handful of times, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to do that again today and to give you some updates about July and events moving forward. First, I want to get some of the less fun, some of the more business-oriented items out of the way and talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 and what the town's doing as part of their response. So a few updates and reminders. Please know that all of these are as of our recording date. Today is July 21st, 2020. So if you're watching this as a rerun or if you're watching this as a taped session, whether it's on YouTube or on the CVC website, please make sure that you are checking the town's website as well as the state's website for more regular updates than what is necessarily being presented to you. First and foremost, I want to remind everybody that our outdoor gathering limit remains at 100 across the state. That's 100 individuals who can be attending any one gathering. There are a few exceptions if it's for a religious ceremony, for example, or a graduation ceremony. However, by and large, if you're having a social gathering of any kind, you're going to want to stay at that 100 or fewer number. The indoor gathering limit for social gatherings remains at 25. We do have a travel advisory in place. I know that there was, at least at the very onset, a little confusion about what the travel advisory meant for Connecticut. So I want to just reiterate and explain that the governor has put into place a list of different states that are currently seeing a spike beyond what we would really be comfortable enduring here in Connecticut of COVID-19 cases. That list details more than a dozen different states, almost 24, I believe now at this point, that are seeing such spikes. And the advisory is that anybody who is traveling from that state, whether it's for a day or whether they are lifetime residents of that state and are coming to visit Connecticut, that once they arrive in this state, that they are taking 14 days to quarantine themselves to really make sure that the spread of this virus stays as minimal as possible here in Connecticut. As many of you know, Connecticut has been really pushing forward and advancing this fight against COVID-19 far beyond what many other states have been able to do. And it's certainly a point of pride for me. I know that the town of Bolton has very much taken up with the governor's office and made sure that we are following every single point of guidance to the T. And as a result of that, we've been able to greatly reduce and curb our numbers. For example, Bolton's case count here in town remains at 23. It's been in the low 20s now for months, and that really is a point of pride for us. Unfortunately, we have endured 3 deaths due to COVID-19 here in town. These were all, for the most part, took place between the months of March and May, and we have not seen anyone pass away since then as a result of COVID-19 related symptoms. The senior center remains closed at this point in time. The bottom line is that it's simply too small a space for the large majority of our very much at-risk population, our older population that seems to have a higher affliction when it comes to COVID-19, a higher rate of dangerous symptoms that crop up. And we don't want to encourage that spread within our senior center, within our senior population. We want to make sure that senior lives are very much cared for and considered. And as a result of that, unfortunately, we continue to be unable to open our senior center at this time. The library and town hall are both operating with very select in-person meetings that are set by appointment only in order to gain access to the interior of either of these buildings, which is not recommended by any means, but it is possible depending on what it is that you're requesting and you're looking for. You need to call ahead to the department that you wish to get into contact with, whether that be within the library or within town hall. and you need to schedule an appointment. Anything that can be done remotely will be done remotely. So please bear that in mind as you consider whether you really need to be in person to complete a task or to get a book or another material from the library, or if you might be able to simply request that over the phone or via email. Beyond that, we have a few different updates for you today. First and foremost, I want to discuss the fact that Indian Notch Park is now closed for the remainder of the season. The last time that I was here and I was able to share information with you, we were very hopeful that we would be able to open Indian Notch Park. We have been following state guidance on this, given the fact that Connecticut, again, has been really at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19, has been able to keep its numbers low, and Connecticut across the state has been closing all of its inland beaches. The bottom line is that they are not large enough spaces to be able to have more than a dozen or so people on the beach without overcrowding and without really the virus to be at very high risk of spreading in that environment. Therefore, the Board of Selectmen at their July meeting did decide to keep Indian Notch Park closed for the remainder of the year. We do have state police who are monitoring that area, and they will be enforcing the closure. Anybody who's found beyond the front gate of Indian Notch Park at any given point in time may be considered trespassing, and I really want to impress upon all of you, please follow the orders, be considerate of others, be considerate of the town, be considerate of this public property, and please refrain from going onto the beach. We have a number of other beautiful parks. We have the Bolton Heritage Farm that's free to use and is open from dawn to dusk. We have Herrick Park with its many fields that are now open. We have fields at the high school and at the middle school that are open for use. And of course, we have Freya Park up in the northern part of our town, as well as a number of state parks in the Hop River Trail that remain free and open for use during daylight hours. You have every opportunity to make use of those spaces. There are a number of beaches that are open within surrounding communities that you might have the chance to go to that are a little bit larger than Indian Notch Park and that have decided to open. And there are also beaches on the coast that if you're able to get there early enough on a weekend, you'll be able to get into before they close down due to capacity. Please be safe out there. Please continue to wear your mask, stay home, stay safe, and keep Bolton strong. The last piece of unfortunate news that I want to share with all of you is that the Board of Selectmen has voted to postpone the remainder of the 300th events with the exception of the farmers market that will take place at the end of August. These 300th events have been a long time coming. I know that I've had the chance to sit down here and really talk about each of the different events with you, and Pam Sawyer, the co-chair of that committee, joined me on a couple of different occasions, as well as Joyce Stilley, my predecessor, to talk about these different events and all of the work that she and others have been doing to make sure that Bolton has a celebration worthy of 300 years of dedication and work in this community that a number of families have put in and that we today continue to live on and contribute to. So we will be having a 300+1 celebration. That is going to happen next year. We're postponing all of these major and wonderfully organized events to 2021. I hope that you all are able to get excited, remain optimistic about the fact that hopefully by then we have a vaccine in place that's going to allow us to be a little bit more lenient with the social gatherings and activities that we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to these updates and to consider not just your own health, not just the health of your family members, but the health of our entire community. Every time we go out in public and we don't wear a mask, it's a sign that we don't necessarily respect the people that we're around. Please be respectful, please be kind, please be courteous, please wear a mask, and stay safe. But in the spirit of John Krasinski, today I want to share a little bit of good news with you about activities within the Bolton community. And the first item that I want to share with you is the fact that at their July meeting, the Bolton Board of Selectmen appointed a poet laureate. Now, this is something that has been promoted by the Sustainable CT Initiative that's been going around in this state. And Sustainable CT has been encouraging, the state has its own poet laureate, I should specify, but has been encouraging towns to go out into the community, and not just poet laureates, but to find individuals who are deeply ingrained in their art, who are natives of Connecticut, whatever the case might be, who are really contributing to the cultural scene here in Connecticut and to showcase them. And Bolton has decided to take up this opportunity to look and search within itself and find that we do have an individual here in town who has a plethora of experience in the realm of poetry, who writes truly beautiful works, and who is a Bolton resident, a longtime Bolton resident, and that's Bessie Reyna. And I want to read a little bit of information from you. Unfortunately, I don't have this information printed out, but I do have it on my phone. So if you'll bear with me for just a moment, I'll pull it up and read a little bit about her to you. Born in Cuba, Bessie Reyna immigrated with her family to Panama before the Cuban Revolution. Curious and intellectual, she rebelled against the traditional roles expected of women in Latin American society. Adversity takes many forms, she says. Sometimes it's surviving a culture when you don't want to be part of that culture. Her mother's life served as a warning. She was so bright with so much to offer, but all she could do was take care of a husband and children, Reyna said. She was not allowed to work, and I knew I couldn't do that. Reyna discovered her love for poetry as a child in Cuba, and soon found that writing helped to clarify her feelings. A teacher selected me to recite Los Zapaticos de Rosa by José Martí, the poet and martyr of Cuban independence. It was a long poem, and as I stood in front of the school reciting it, the beauty of the words and the meaning of the poem greatly affected me. A few years later, she began writing seriously in response to the death of a school friend. Today, Reyna is an award-winning bilingual poet, an activist and opinion columnist who writes on issues of gender, ethnicity, and equality, and a sought-after lecturer and guest artist. She is the author of 2 bilingual books of poetry, The Battlefield of Your Body and Memoirs of the Unfaithful Lover. In 2010, she was one of 10 women honored by the Connecticut Women's Hall of Fame. She's a very impressive woman. I was very glad to have the opportunity, even though it was only over a Zoom call, to have the chance to meet her and hear a little bit more about her at that Board of Selectmen meeting. If you're interested in hearing more about Bessie, you have the opportunity to, of course, Google her. Hopefully in the near future, you'll have the opportunity to hear her speak at different events in town. And you certainly have the opportunity to go online onto bolton.govoffice.com to look up the Board of Selectmen meeting audio. We are required right now by state, by executive order, I should say, to keep a recording of all of the online meetings that are occurring. I can talk a little bit more about how to access those meetings live later, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that they have access to those audio recordings and that they have the chance to learn a little bit more about Bessie. I do have a poem here from Bessie that I would like to share with each of you, just so that you can hear a little flavor, a little taste of what Bessie has been able to bring to the world, and of course, what Bessie will be able to bring here to Bolton. This is called What We Left Behind. Havana Vieja, you wait like an elegant hostess, yearning for the guests who sat at your dinner table. But now the balcony where you all gathered to marvel at the Noche Cubana has fallen to the ground, the beauty of your past spread on the sidewalk like a shattered kaleidoscope. I left you antes de. As the hotel staff describes me, what they mean is before the revolution. Somehow, the date of my departure is like a baptism cleansing me of the sin of having abandoned you. The bus carrying me to the city turns a corner, and I, who have been desperately searching for something from my past, recognize a fountain, the one with dolphins, and shout, "Look, I used to play here." Suddenly I am 10 and not 70, and I can go back to the park whose name I've forgotten, put on my roller skates, lock them on my shoes, and rush fast to embrace the wind. When Tia Espe took me to the airport that day in April 1954, I was too young to understand that the past would come, a colorless memory of the few black and white photos my mother brought with her. Inside the plane, I'm transformed from Cuban citizen to a soon-to-be homeless immigrant child. Later on, my repressed Cuban identity would burst out when eating my mother's arroz con pollo or lechon asado. Those flavors exploding in my mouth filled my heart. I became like a house in need of repair, disconnected from the family left behind, imagining the cousins I would never meet. I asked my friend if I could borrow her grandmother, pretend she was mine. I had everything and I had nothing, because you were always a yearning, a first kiss we can never forget. That's, again, a short poem by Bessie Rayna, the new Bolton Poet Laureate, and the title of that was What We Left Behind. And Bessie, if you're watching today, I apologize if my Spanish is a little rusty, but I hope that you appreciate that my passion for wanting to share your works with our community, and I hope that you will all continue to follow Bessie's great works and to learn a little bit more about her. The next item I want to bring to your attention today on the subject of some good news here in Bolton is the subject of a beaver dam that popped up on Deming Road in town. So some of you may be familiar with this as an issue that's come up before. There are beavers in Connecticut. They are not necessarily very common, but when they do pop up, they make themselves known pretty easily and pretty readily. So on Deming Road, there's a culvert. That's a small underpass under the roadway that allows water to go from one parcel of land that's owned by the land trust and flow safely under the roadway and on down the stream. So when it was brought to my attention a couple months ago that there were beavers on Deming Road, I thought, well, that sounds really cute. And then I was informed by several members of my staff, including our highway department, that it was a very dangerous situation, especially from the perspective of the taxpayer, especially from the perspective of those who are in charge of caring for our roadways. So on Deming Road, when the beavers decided to build a dam immediately before the culvert, the issue that we saw was that there were a couple feet of water that rose as a result of that dam and came very close to a point where if there was a very heavy rainstorm, if there was, for example, a hurricane that came through Connecticut at that point in time, it may have very well washed out that dam and in the process washed out a lot of the roadway and caused a lot of damage. We're talking more in the hundreds of thousands than just the thousands. So it was an issue that we had to address right away, and it was an issue that town staff had a lot of difficulties trying to figure out how to best address. From, of course, a humanitarian perspective, from a conservation perspective, there's a large desire to try and protect the beavers. These are natural animals in a natural habitat here in Connecticut. They have been here long before us and will probably be here long after. And we, from one perspective, have a responsibility to try and nurture an environment where we have these native species coming in and making use of the environment. And on the other hand, of course, we need to protect our roads, we need to protect our tax dollars, we need to protect the taxpayers, and therefore we needed to really dig deep and think. And the reason that beavers, I've done a lot of research now into beavers as we've gone through this process. So beavers create dams in areas where the water usually is pretty shallow because they want to find an area where there's about 2 to 3 feet of water. Really 3 feet it sounds like the optimal level for them. And what they do during this time, during the summer when they build up a dam, is they will find food and they will store it down under the water. And they need that water to be at about that 3-foot mark because once the winter rolls around and once the water starts to freeze on top, that frozen section of water in that pond or that stream or whatever the case might be usually doesn't reach down a full 3 feet. It would have to be an extremely cold winter for an extremely long period of time for the ice to penetrate that deep. And this allows all of the food that they're storing down on the bottom of this body of water to stay fresh, but stay accessible, and make sure that they have an opportunity to get down under that ice, really dig out that food as they need it during the winter, and come back up without the ice engulfing their food and making it totally inaccessible. So it's important to them that they be able to have some type of dam. It's important to them that they be able to raise the water in that area to some extent. So the solution that we were able to find And this was with the help of the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, a number of different local experts, and eventually a company that was able to come in called Beaver Solutions out of Massachusetts, that proposed to us a solution that's worked in over 1,500 different locations. And that's the installation of a fence as well as a pipe. So the pipe is considered to be a water leveling pipe. And really what this does is it extends through a fence that's put up, and that water leveling pipe allows for water to be drawn in from far beyond into the water, beyond a dam that may be built, will get drawn through the dam and will be deposited on the other side, meaning that the goal is, of course, for the water to never be able to get above a certain level without it hitting that drain. And much like the safety drain in a sink, in a bathroom sink, for example, it will catch all of that water once it gets to that certain level, and it will help to bring it through the dam, making sure that the water table doesn't get too high. And of course, the fence is put into place to first and foremost prevent the beavers from getting too close to the culvert and building up that dam again in the same exact spot. But the fence actually provides a foundation for the beavers to build a type of dam. So the dam that they build will not be able to get too high, and it won't be able to be so close to the culvert that any amount of water going over it would very much risk washing out the roadway. This allows for the dam and forces the beavers to build a dam out a certain distance from that culvert, so that in the event that any water starts to come over the top of that dam, there's enough of a spillway, there's enough ability for this water to flow over and to be very calmly and smoothly collected and put through the culvert that it won't wash out the roadway. So there was a lot of collaboration in this effort. I really want to thank the Bolton Land Trust for taking the time to work with me to find a solution, given that this beaver dam existed on their property. And I'm very grateful also, after having gotten down there to see the installation of the fence and the pipe, that the Bolton Land Trust has put up some informational placards about this process and about the work that has been done down there to help save the beavers, to help make sure that they didn't need to be trapped, which unfortunately would have resulted in the taking of those beavers' lives. So we were able to avoid that, and we were able to avoid the washout of the road. And we were able to do this very quickly and efficiently. And I just really want to thank everybody involved and share this good piece of, and this very positive piece of information with all of you about town activities. But beyond that, I want to ask all of you, what have you been doing during your quarantine? What have you been doing in your homes? What have you seen around the community that's been very positive, very upbeat, that you would really like to see shared, either by me on this program, or that perhaps you would even like to send in a video that we could share, whether it's on the town website, social media pages, or perhaps even through this show here on CVC. We have a lot of opportunities to spread goodwill and good cheer throughout this process, and I really want to encourage all of you to get in contact with me. You can call Town Hall. You can call me directly, and my information can be found online right now, or you can email me at townadmin@boltonct.org. And send me your thoughts, send me your ideas. If you don't have something that you've been able to witness yourself firsthand that might spread some goodwill and good cheer on future shows, what are some pieces of information that you'd like to hear about town happenings? What are some pieces of information that you'd like to hear from your neighbors? Any information that you can send me about what you've been able to do and what you've been able to accomplish and see in each other over these past several months, I certainly will hearten me, and I know that it will be a great relief to the community to have a little bit more good news shared amongst all of our residents. And I really would like to help be a conduit in that if at all possible. So thank you very much for your time and listening to my good news. Before we sign off today, I do have just a few reminders to share with you. First and foremost, if you're interested in listening in on the Sustainable CT meeting, that is being held, our July meeting is being held tomorrow night at 7 p.m., and that's tomorrow night being Wednesday, July 22nd. That is being held via Zoom. If you are at all interested in participating in any of these meetings, please contact me directly so that I can send you a link to participate via video conference in these meetings. Or you can go online, look within the agenda that's published with each of these meetings, and you can find a phone number and a meeting identification number that will let you call in on your phone for an audio-only access to the meeting. And we're happy to get you access to a meeting either way. Obviously, it's a little more easily accessible via phone, given the fact that we're able to post that directly and publicly. The Fire Commission, Inland Wetlands Commission, and Economic Development Commission will meet on the week of July 27th. So from the date of posting, that will be next week. And the Board of Selectmen next meets on Tuesday, August 4th. They meet on the first Tuesday of every month. So if you're wondering about future dates beyond August, I encourage you to check out the calendar. All of those dates are posted online, and we would very much look forward to either hearing your comments or simply having you join us to hear a little bit more about the items that we're discussing. If you have questions or comments about anything that I've shared today, about any town happenings related to COVID-19, or simply our regular operations, please see our website at bolton.govoffice.com or email me directly at townadmin@boltonct.org. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join me today and to listen in on this community conversation here in Bolton. If you've been under the weather at all in the past few months, or if you know anyone in your family that has unfortunately had to endure that hardship, please know that my thoughts are with you. And for everybody else, as you go out into public and as you continue to connect with individuals that it's been too long since you've had the chance to see them, please continue to be safe, be smart, be strong, and we'll see you back here next time.